guess, to most women, is it sold as the solution to their pain, and that's why it's overly prescribed and people go down that route?
100%. It's like whenever a client comes to me, because I only work with clients who want to come off of birth control, that's like that's the base of my business. And a lot of clients, I always ask them, like, why did you go on birth control? Is it for actual birth control or was it for something else? And birth control is used as a Band-Aid for multiple other things other than birth control. And so it just blows my mind that this thing has become a Band-Aid for so many issues within women's health.
What's it usually a Band-Aid for? What's it usually? I mean, there's probably a lot of areas, but I've heard that it's very overprescribed.
Yep.
You know, women go to see a doctor about, you know, something that's like, go on the pill, this will solve. How does that come about?
Acne is one. It's a big one. So, you know, shut down your sex hormones. You won't have acne, but it's a Band-Aid. And once you do decide to come off it, it's probably going to come back tenfold. Painful periods. Like if we are experiencing painful periods, then it is a sign that something is going on internally on a deeper level, whether that's nutrient deficiencies, whether it's, you know, gut health issues, thyroid issues. Again, it's just a Band-Aid. Mood swings. I've seen a lot of women have severe mood swings with their cycle and then go on birth control to rectify those mood swings. They're probably the main ones that I've seen.
What are some of the hidden costs of women not being more curious to get to the root cause of these issues? What are some of the patterns that they fall into as a result?
Yeah, so birth control alters a lot of things within the body. And so when we're shutting down these sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, depending on the type of birth control that you have, it's going to, like, it's not just shutting down our reproductive health. It's also going to impact our gut health. It's also going to deplete us of certain nutrients like magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, selenium, all of these things that we need for thyroid health, gut health, liver health. It also can have an impact on the brain as well. It can also impact when we look at the female cycle, it can take up to 10 years for a woman's cycle to actually mature. And so a lot of women are going on birth control from the age of 13.
What do you mean by mature?
Yeah, so when a woman is first starting to menstruate, she's probably going to be more estrogen dominant. So she might start having longer cycles. They might be heavier bleeds because maybe she's having more anovulatory cycles where she's not ovulating and she's not producing progesterone. She may have more like estrogen is more like of the dominant hormone as these hormones start to come online. And so the maturation of that cycle can take a little bit longer for it to just find its groove. Like we are menstruating from the brain, not from our ovaries. So it's a communication pathway between the brain and the ovaries, and that communication pathway can take, 5+ years to mature.
Okay.
But we're shutting it down at a very early age, and then that can also come with repercussions further on down the track if a woman decides to come off of it and she hasn't got a mature cycle as well. So
is there a disconnect, I guess, neurologically between the brain and the body? What is the mechanism that the pill does that? Can you give insight into how that overrides that?
So basically the pill shuts down the signaling from the brain to the ovaries in a nutshell. The brain to the ovaries, it shuts down things like we have follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And so it will shut down those hormones that communicate to the ovaries to release estrogen and also, an egg. Like the luteinizing hormone will signal to release an egg. And so that it will shut those hormones down. And so then that impacts our we no longer producing sex hormones, so estrogen, progesterone.
Yeah. So what is some of the biggest misconceptions about the pill that women have that come to you? What is the presenting, I guess, problems and ideas that they have around the pill?
I think a lot of women still think that they are menstruating on the pill. So if they're experiencing a bleed, which you can still experience on the pill, they think that is their menstrual cycle when really it's just like a withdrawal bleed. So that's one misconception.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so when you're on the pill, you're not ovulating, so you're not producing progesterone. And so a lot of the pill is basically synthetic forms of, I don't want to say hormones because they're not hormones. They're nothing like, progesterone is nothing like progestin. And progestin is what we find in birth control. And so it's nothing like progesterone, but it's a synthetic form of, like progestin is progestin at the end of the day. It's not progesterone. So
why are women so reluctant to get off the pill then? If you're selling me, but why is there a reluctance and a resistance to do it?
Convenience. It's purely convenience. It's convenient to take a tablet and think that, like I don't have to worry about, falling pregnant, or I don't have to worry now about my acne or painful periods because this pill is now, helping with some of those symptoms, but at what cost?
Covering the cracks, yeah. I guess, what are some of the when someone wants to come off the pill, what is like a average process look like a withdrawal? Like, how does someone want to come off the pill, and then what's like, I guess, a process of change?
So it really comes down to the individual, and it also comes down to how long they've been on that birth control as well. So ideally we want to see the cycle return within the first 3 months. If it doesn't, then you can start to dig a little bit deeper into why that might be. If the cycle hasn't returned within 6 months, you definitely want to be diving deeper into why that might be. And it might be post-pill PCOS, which is very common with some women. It might be due to nutrient deficiencies, thyroid issues. And so we really want to be like keeping an eye on, like, are these hormones coming back online? And that's why I try and teach women about their very own biomarkers, like cervical mucus. You'll notice when estrogen is coming back online because you'll start to see things like cervical mucus. And so it's getting women to track those biomarkers like basal body temperature, cervical mucus, so that they can understand, my hormones are coming back online. And if they haven't come back online in a certain amount of time, then it's further investigation, blood work, and so on. And so when someone is wanting to transition off birth control, the first thing that I say is, like, you need to have some sort of, if you're trying not to conceive, you need some sort of method for contraception. And so I'm a big advocate of fertility awareness method, and that is using your own biomarkers like basal body temperature and tracking cervical mucus, and using that alongside another barrier method like a condom.
Yeah. I've heard that women can only fall pregnant X amount of days per month,
yes.
right?
Yeah. So 5 to 6 days, they say. And that's purely because sperm can survive 5 to 6 days as well. It's not because we are actually fertile for 1 day, but because sperm can survive that a little bit longer, that's why we are fertile for that fertile window.
How different do women show up before and after they come off the pill? I've heard that like the hormones have such an impact on our personality and I guess how we show up. So what are some of the felt experience differences?
I might talk about my experience,
of course,
if that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, so my experience, I was on the Implanon, and for those that don't know what the Implanon is, it's like a rod that goes in your arm and it's releasing progestin, and it stays in there for about 3 years. And I was like a zombie, or like a walking zombie. I didn't experience happiness, but I didn't experience highs or lows that some women say that they experience on the pill. I just was like this walking, like I didn't feel anything. It was like numb. Yeah, exactly that. And I remember like partners would call me like emotionally inept, or like I didn't feel like, I don't know. Like,
were you not able to be like present in your body? Was it like a disconnect?
That's exactly what it felt like a complete disconnect. And so I blamed a lot of my feelings. I'd never linked the two together. It wasn't until I came off of it that I was like, wow, this is who I am and this is how I feel. And actually I'm not emotionally inept, and I'm not, I'm not depressed or anything. It was this thing in my arm that was making me walk around like a zombie, like just numb. And so I've heard that from a lot of women where they just, they either experience severe anxiety or depression, or they just don't feel anything. And it's not only our emotional state that it can impact, but it can also impact things like libido. like a common thing for women on birth control is that they've lost their libido. And that was definitely something that I had experienced as well.